Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
There's been plenty to complain about. There's been plenty of craziness. There's been plenty of hurt and pain and all of those things. But even in the midst of that, what I love about it is it doesn't negate all of this stuff, but it gives us an opportunity to find Jesus in it. So, Jesus, you have my attention. Okay.
That is Chris Cleveland. He's the front man for Stars Go Dim, brand new project, and you're going to get a great preview if you haven't heard it yet. He's got the piano right in front of him during this podcast, so I told him he can only do 20-minute clips of new music so that we don't have to go after the rights. You know how that works? So yeah, you get tiny little Costco samples of new music from him. And he is just a wealth of information behind the way that our brains and our hearts work when it comes to music and melody and understanding God better. He talks about why he gravitates towards pop music, and it's just a fascinating conversation. We start with the fact that for his side hustle, he's also a podcaster. He co-hosts, along with Tim Timmons, the 10,000 Minutes podcast. So we start with what he's learned with that side hustle.
Oh gosh, I mean, it happens all the time. It happens a lot, even when I'm playing. I'll give like a 3-minute sermon on some word or something. Like one that was really simple, but kind of blew my mind was this idea of blessing, and we were rethinking the idea of blessing. And in my mind, like probably most people who've gone to church their whole lives, but never really dove into it. I never understood how we could bless the Lord. I always took blessing as something that like we get, or it was like this tangible thing, or when something went well for us, then we were blessed or whatever. The reality is the Bible never mentions blessing as a form of like money or stuff. It's not a tangible thing like that, but it's actually this process of being made whole, or this like act of calling out something that's true about someone or about God in someone and like the work that he's doing. And so one, kind of blew my mind. Two, I was like, oh, so this is how we bless the Lord. Like we just proclaim who he is. And there's this cool kind of communal aspect to blessing that when we bless others, when we call out those things in others, it actually like kind of solidifies this process of making them whole. And then blessing becomes reciprocal, and you're blessed by being a blessing. It's crazy. So yeah, I've learned some good tidbits like that.
You're talking about one of my favorite things, calling out the gold you see inside of other people, because I think we have some sort of a truth receptor in us that when someone says the truth about, who we are uniquely made in the image of God, you watch someone like step into that.
That's exactly right. I think, and when you can see it, and this can be simple, right? I do it with my kids or a friend, and sometimes you think about these things, but you don't say them. And it's so it's this practice of hey, I'm going to say this nice thing that I thought about my wife or my children or my friend. And somebody told me the other day, they described it, when you do that, you actually double the blessing, because not only are you're both being blessed, and that the joy that comes from that gets reciprocated. So now you're seeing how much it means to them, and then you're being blessed now back on top because of that. And I try to practice that with my kids and wife and things, and just say what I'm thinking when I think it instead of holding it in. You know what I mean?
I've heard that you call Tim Timmons, who does this podcast, like a walking bumper sticker. Explain that.
He is. He's like a walking Jesus bumper sticker. One, he's like, if you've ever been around Bob Goff, or Bob Goff, he's I feel like maybe the father of this, and he and Tim have to be, cousins or something, I don't know, but they're cut from the same cloth. Joyful, talk about somebody who blesses people really, really well. He has a gift of bringing out the best in people. And so I like to talk good about him behind his back, but also to his face. And, but he just has all of these sayings and little quips. and just a way with people and words that make me feel better when I leave. And some of them are cheesy and some of them are hokey. Now, this isn't very bumper stickery, but it's really funny. If someone walks into the room late, and I've stolen this from him a lot, and he's kind of talking, he'll pause, he'll like affirm them, look at them and say, hey, listen, we're just wrapping up, going around, all confessing our most recent moral failures, and it's your turn. You know, he'll do something like that and really put somebody on the spot in a funny way. It's pretty funny.
It's interesting. We've spent the first part of this discussion, you and I, talking about the power of words. And I feel like that also transitions into the type of music that you make. Let's talk for a moment about why we need to be so careful with the words we choose to put out there. Yeah,
I mean, this is any music, but especially music that claims some sort of faith behind it, or when you get into worship music and those type of things. I'm gonna botch this pretty badly, but follow me. There's a pastor in Colorado Springs. His name's Glenn Peckham. And he had this tiny little book that I read years ago. And he said this in Latin, and it sounded way more fancy. I'm also the guy that like reads the book, forgets about it. I forget the quote, forget the guy that says it, but I get like the gist, you know, and I'm very jealous of people who like Mike Donahue.
That was the name I was going to say too.
Oh, he knows like the author, the book, the page number, maybe a little autobiography. Written. Yeah. I'm like, come on, Mike. But I'm very jealous of him for that. But Glenn Peckham, he had this book and he's talking about worship, and he says, we believe what we sing, and what we believe we live, essentially. And so the underlying point of that is like our words have the power not just to affect what we think, but how we act and the way we live. When we put words in people's mouths to sing, there's got to be some like ethical, moral code or some responsibility for us that we take in what those words are. And if it's, you know, worship music, then you're thinking about the theology of the church and like the truth and the things that you and your team and your church really want to like lean into. When you're talking about music, like I do a lot of the themes that you'll find that I've honed in on are around worth, identity, value, things like that. After I put out the song You Are Loved in 2015, it kind of took on this crazy life of its own. And really, long story short, I just realized how many people needed affirmation that their lives had value and that they were loved. And so a lot of the songs that I put to radio, a lot of the songs that I write are along those themes, because I feel like God's put that on my heart to speak to people. And that's a message that I talk about live.
That's the right motivation for sure. I'm going to take you all the way back. You didn't botch up that quote at all. You got that thing that was the Mike Donahue level of quoting and explaining it. You did it.
I'm into, well, thanks. See, you just blessed me right there. That's pretty good.
You were talking about what gets you up in the morning. You want to help people understand how much they're loved, because when we live from that place, we bring heaven to earth.
Yeah, let's go. The older I get, the way more I'm so much more concerned about bringing heaven to earth than anything else. And I feel like that's a lot of what Jesus preached and a lot of what he did in his life. And if I'm following that example and those words, that's kind of my goal. And what I've found in the midst of that, when I focus on that more than other things, is I'm a better person. I'm a happier person. The people around me are happier. Like it just becomes a better world that we're living in. And I think if we could all kind of approach it from that way, we would all be doing a little bit better. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Let's talk about a couple of the ways that you get yourself into that place of I am loved. I know one of them, I wonder if you still do this. Tim taught it to you. It's a breathing practice in the morning, and you breathe in and you breathe out.
Breathe in, Jesus. Breathe out, you have my attention. I almost said this instead of the blessing thing earlier, because it was one of the things that I think was so simple, but really revolutionized the way that I lived. And I think, gosh, we get going crazy. The pandemic slowed us down a bit, but we all found new ways to, fill our brains with stuff to do, or, put something in front of us to make us feel busy. But when we can be mindful enough, Tim would say, when we can be sober enough, sober of mind, to acknowledge God and what he's doing for us in and through like everything, and say, where can I find you today, Jesus? Like, Jesus, you have my attention. Okay. Where can I find you? I'm going to be on the lookout for you. I want to meet you here. And I think it's a simple practice to realign your perspective. If any of us have needed that, it's been over the last couple of years, because there's been plenty to complain about. There's been plenty of craziness. There's been plenty of hurt and pain and all of those things. But even in the midst of that, what I love about it is it doesn't negate all of this stuff, but it gives us an opportunity to find Jesus in it. And that has been really revolutionary for me. It's really simple. I mean, you can do it anytime in your day. A lot of times it hits me before I even open my eyes, and it just becomes a part of your consciousness as it goes. Jesus, you have my attention. Okay. I can settle down here. I don't need to go crazy on this guy who just, cut me off in traffic or whatever it is, gives you some perspective. Let's
talk about your music, how, in this industry, it's easy for people to write a ballad. Whenever this is a little bit insider information for someone listening to this podcast, but radio stations, they test their music. And the way they do that is they get research back from their audience. And the songs that usually test super high are slower, contemplative ballads. And then here you come with your pop music, with your energy, with your brightness. And it is a welcome sunburst. Your music is audio vitamin D through the speakers. So when did you realize this is my lane?
I have always been or had a slant for like pop music. It's just kind of what comes out when I sing or do music. I think there's people like in our genre in Christian music that do pop music and do it really, really well. And some people do like really epic-y pop stuff, like for King and Country, it'd be like epic pop. You're feeling kind of like the peaks and valleys of that kind of stuff. Then you've got guys like Torrin or Jordan who are doing this like almost like gospel pop thing. And then I think people like me, I say Unspoken kind of fits in this too. And there's a few of us where we're doing more it just makes you feel good. You know what I mean? And what I try to do is pack some good truth into a pop song. So if you turn it up because it feels good, then after you listen to it for a while, some of those lyrics, like we talked about, begin to form you a bit. And so that's kind of what I try to do a lot, is give you a little more depth than you'd expect. And I'm excited because I'm like days away from releasing a brand new record of a bunch of songs that I think are the best pop songs that I've ever written. So I've been listening to it for like a year and a half, and I'm not tired of it yet. So I'm kind of pumped to finally give it to you guys.
Well, you've got a piano in front of you. I mean, you got to just like play me a couple of chords or like a chorus or a hook of something that I don't have to go digging for rights, right? It has to be less than 30 seconds. That's the rules, or my digital team gets mad at me.
Okay, like a brand new song? This is cool. And I do it kind of slow because I want you to get the depth. I've been asleep, head in the sand, watching the time just ticking. Clock runs around, days in and out, can't really call it living. But somewhere I let light go dark. But here's where my new story starts. So it's actually kind of like a little dark lyrics. Like, man, I've been struggling a little bit, you know what I mean? But in the song is pretty peppy on the radio. It's all acoustics and 4 on the floor kick. But then that chorus kicks in. Take my life and let it be Set on fire for all to see. Break me down, build me up again. Don't leave me the way I've been. Take my heart into your hands. Come and finish what you began. Till I seek your kingdom first. Till I shine, shine like heaven on earth. Oh, 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 oh. Heaven on earth. Oh, 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 oh. You know, so there's a little bit for you.
Okay, so good. Can you give us a sample, 20-second sampler of something new?
What do I want to give you?
You can do more than one.
Okay, I'll give you a couple. Title track off the record. I love this. I never known a love like yours. You keep on giving more and more. Hey. Is every day you show me you are good, and every day you show me you are good. That's the verse. And the chorus. You give me grace, grace, grace in the wilderness, and you'll give me faith, faith, faith when I'm losing it. And nobody knows what we've been through. Nobody loves me like you do. You give me grace, grace, grace in the wilderness. So I really like that one.
Oh my word. When is we're going to go to the next one. When is this album out? What's the title?
April 29th. It's out. The title is Grace in the Wilderness. That song's probably never going to be a radio single, but I stinking love it. Let's see. What else do we have? You gotta be lonely. How does that song go? I need to find all the lyrics. That's my I've got this guy that does hear me out. I've got this guy that does on my what is it called? Social media and stuff when we do these videos, you know, every week. And he's like, "Can you play the song?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know the words. I've never played it before." And so we have to do this over and over again where I find the lyrics to songs I wrote myself and reteach it to me.
That makes all of us feel so much better.
Right? Here's a confession too. The last like 3 shows, I keep forgetting the bridge to Heaven on Earth, even though I've played it thousands of times at this point. And I think it's because I think about it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to remember the lyric. And then I forget the lyric. And
is that where you just stylistically back away from the microphone and hope that the crowd fills in for you?
You would think, but no, because I'm awkward. So I stop the show and I tell them exactly what's going on. I'm like, guys, I'm playing some sort of roulette in my brain when this bridge comes up, and it only comes in right when it happens. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And tonight it didn't. And then I'm like, does anyone know the lyrics? And then you just keep going.
But I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that would create even a better moment, a more memorable moment, because it's what we call a pattern interrupter. So someone is now going to pay more attention to the lyrics of that bridge because you stopped it.
Exactly. So sometimes it works. Now, I have a theory that only works if you don't do it every time. Because, and then you have to kill it when you come out of it. Like, if you screw up a song and stop it, you've got to be phenomenal coming out of it, because otherwise it just looks lazy.
Yeah,
but I think I've kind of figured out a way to where I can endear myself to people when I screw up, and sometimes they like me better for it. But a pattern interrupter, is that what you called it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's smart. There's probably some science behind it.
There is science behind it. Something about when you do that, they pay more attention to what comes after.
Well, I'm just going to mess up all my songs from now on, and we'll just start putting it on the record.
No. Okay,
great.
You look like you were getting ready to play something else.
Let me see. Okay, this is a song called Already Loved. It's like my You Are Loved version too. I love this song. You're already loved. You don't have to try to be enough. Come just as you are. There's nothing you could do that could ever change. He's always been this way. You're already loved. What? Already loved. with the chords, but you get it. I like that song. That one's really fun to play. It's like the record is like so poppy. So we've got from real pop songs to some worshipy stuff. I cut some songs that like Bethel that I've written for other people, like Bethel or Mav City, that kind of thing. And so it's kind of a fun record.
Who are some of your favorite people to collaborate with right now?
There's a guy, he and I kind of did this whole record together. His name's Jeff Soika. He's a producer in town. He's kind of on a ton of stuff. He's having a moment now. And honestly, my other friend of mine, he and I collaborate on a lot of songs. His name's Jeff Pardo. And he's like, every number one song in the last year has been Pardo, which is nice because he's an insane writer and has been doing it for a long time. And so he's finally having a moment, which is awesome. And then, I write with people. I probably write 3 or 4 times a week, with different people for other things. And so there's a lot of people I really, really love writing with. And it's fun to write for other people and not myself all the time. Just kind of
tell me why that is.
Deal. I don't know. Sometimes there's more pressure on you when it's your thing and you feel like you've got to like come up with it. And so taking someone else's vision and kind of crafting that, 1, takes the pressure off, and 2, it's kind of fun to come in at an angle that maybe somebody else didn't see. So I'm usually like the pop guy in a country room or the pop guy in a worship room or something like that. So I bring a little bit different vibe to everything going on, which is really fun.
I heard once, tell me if this is true with pop music, people's attention spans, we all know this, are generally way shorter than they were, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Do you have to take that into account when you're writing, what's it called, a top line? What's the thing at the very beginning?
Yeah, I think, you want to get like the old sayings like, don't bore us, get us to the chorus kind of thing, so you want to hook like as quickly as possible. And so like, let's see. If I go through my songs, like the time, I bet you I have 8 songs on my record that are less than 3 minutes long. I mean, they're fast or short. When you look back at like catalogs of music, like I think Elvis, like the average Elvis song was 2:45-ish, somewhere in there. Somebody can fact check me. But like Beatles songs, like they averaged under 3 minutes. Some of the biggest songs that we've ever heard are all pretty quick. We kind of forgot about it because we've got like Freebird and stuff that are like 19 minutes long. But a lot of the pop songs have always been pretty short. Yeah.
What is it about our brains that connect with pop music like this where, it feels like candy to our brain? What is that?
I don't know, but it does it for me. I'm sure not everybody feels that way, but when I hear like a really well written pop song, it's like the endorphins go off. You know what I mean? It makes me feel a certain way, and that's why I love it, and that's why I kind of resonate with it. A really great. I'm sure people do the same with country or R&B or rap or whatever it is, rock music. I don't necessarily with all those, but it's a melodic thing for me. And so even in some of those other genres, if the melody hits me right, I'd be like, perfect song. I also think listening to music for me is one of these things that it's one of the most accessible things that you can do for the very first time over and over again. So like to listen to someone's brand new song or someone's brand new album and experience something for the first time. How many other things in life can you experience for the first time? Like not a lot. And so it's one of my favorite things just to sit, take a second. Like I won't listen. If somebody comes out with a new record, I won't listen to it till I can sit down, like listen to the whole thing. And because I want to experience it. And I put a lot of weight into my first kind of impressions of music.
Well, then I would imagine with this new record that comes out April 29th, that you've taken, if that's how you listen to music, then you must have taken great care in your arrangement of a person that's choosing to listen to this album in that way.
I did. Yeah, I think more so than any record I've done so far. I took a lot of time to figure out like how I wanted the songs placed. And I pitched this around with the label, and I don't know if they'll do it for me or not. But what's really cool about this record, and I'll throw this out there right now, you can listen to it 1 to 13, and it feels a certain way. and tells a certain story, I think. You can listen 13 to 1 and it's a totally different experience. And so, like I almost wanted to do like a double record, like Grace and Wilderness, and have them flip the arrangements, track numbers, and then you could listen through it backwards and get a totally different vibe. But it still tells the same story, I think, which is really cool.
Which is?
Oh man, it's kind of a journey. It's like I'll pull up the titles of these songs. So the first song is a song I've already released, a song called This Is Love, which to me is like this person who is just like recognizing what this force is in their lives. And then we kind of go through these levels of like what love is and how it, it affects them, and like, is it possible for me to live into this? And what does that look like? And then kind of the joy and peace that comes with that. And it kind of walks us all the way through this journey of discovery, of living into it, of like seeing God move. And then we wind up in that Grace in the Wilderness, where we can find God with us, even through hard times. And so it's kind of this reciprocal thing, kind of like life, when it's like, oh, this is something special, feels really good. Oh, even if we get into a bad place now, we know what it is and we can find it again. So it's kind of cool.
Have you already shared track 13 with us yet today?
That was a Grace in the Wilderness one.
Okay.
You give me grace, grace, grace in the wilderness. Yeah.
Well, that was the title track.
It is. And it's the last song on the record.
Got it. I don't know why I assumed that would be first. See, you're giving us a good education today. Maybe everybody else already knew that. So thanks for your patience.
No, they didn't know that. I haven't said that at all. But I also feel like if I put the title track last, then people are going to listen through and figure out why. And hopefully they kind of feel the story arc in that with it. I want you to listen to the songs that don't make like if you're a fan, and I love the radio single thing, because it lets me do this whole thing. But there's a lot of songs on the records I love that you never get to listen to if you just listen to radio. So my hope is you love what you hear on the radio and it brings you to the record. And then you're like, why do you call this Grace in the Wilderness? Oh, it's the last song on the record. Let me check this whole record out, Yep. How did we get there?
I remember, I don't know, maybe it couldn't have been a decade ago, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago or something, at the Momentum event. It was when you did, it might have been You Are Loved. It might have been Heaven on Earth. I know in the middle of the set you did Doxology.
That would have been, like 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would have been 7 years ago.
Okay.
And we did You Are Loved, Walking Like Giants, and Doxology.
The Doxology moment was powerful. I had never heard that song done that way before.
That was birthed out of the church I was working at. I was a worship leader at a big mega church. It's a Methodist church, and our traditional service every Sunday did the Doxology with full choir, orchestra, everybody. Every Sunday they did it. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to take this like thing that we're so accustomed to and give my service something like that? And so I just gave it a little new spin. I wrote the other verses to it, which were really just a basic story of who God is and what he's done for us, added the Alleluia chorus, and it started taking off in the church, and has been a really great song to sing. I love singing it live. The interesting part for me, if you come see me live, is like you get the pop stuff, but I grew up leading worship and doing those things. So a lot of times if I have time, I love diving into those things. We go way back too. So I'll play, some hymns for your grandma and everybody. So we dive way deep.
Do you enjoy putting together the production of a live show?
One of my favorite things. Like when I'm done and no one wants to listen to me sing, I feel like I would really enjoy doing it for other people. Yeah. Tell me some of the things that go through your mind, what you think makes great production of a live show experience. Intentionality, probably. It depends on this, like where you are in the scale. Like if you're doing a big show, you need to be very intentional with what you're doing. Then I think like connection is the biggest thing, right? Especially in our market. So we've got things like Winter Jam or Hits Deep or those things, these big arena things, right? And you see somebody who's so great, like a For King or Torrin or Toby, right? They're so good live. And they do that thing so well. But then there's something really special about like the 300 people in a church that I play a whole bunch, and being able to walk out with an acoustic guitar, sit down at a piano and just talk to them and connect more. And people can walk out of those more impacted than the craziness of the big arena shows. And so I approach both of those things very, very different. You know, I wouldn't let myself for a second forget a lyric in an arena show. but when I can turn it into a connection point on a smaller show, and it's a way for people to get to know me, you know, it just becomes one more place where we can connect. And what I've found in our world is that people want to hear the song, they'd like to hear the story, and they'd like to connect with us more than be entertained a lot of times. And so the balance is kind of figuring both of those things out. But intentionality and connection, I think, are the two biggest things. When
you go to a concert with an artist or a band that you just love, are you able to enjoy it just like a regular person, or do you just, is your mind exploding?
No, I rarely am able to enjoy it. There have been a couple of concerts, so I just don't go. There have been a couple of concerts I've really enjoyed, but it's very rare. I'm in the weeds somewhere dumb, you know.
Mm-hmm. You're like producing it or wondering why they did a certain thing, and you're just analyzing the whole thing.
Yeah. It's like if you're an accountant and you're in somebody's books, and you're just like, why did they put that number there? That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, can you share just off the top of your head, what's one of the best produced shows you've ever seen?
One of my favorite shows I've ever seen was a Imagine Dragons show. Mm. And I actually just bought tickets for their new tour. I haven't seen him in years and years. He was a great singer. I'm a vocalist. Like people have to be able to sing for me to really love it. And so he's got a really unique voice. It was good. The production was good. The band was great. So they were one of my favorites. I feel like I saw Rascal Flatts like years ago, and they were really great. I saw U2 once, and I think Bono might be the worship leader in heaven.
Oh my word, and, yes.
You know.
Yesterday, my husband was painting our bathroom. He had a playlist on, and a U2 song came on. And then he said something like, you know, well, what's your favorite U2 song? And I said, Where the Streets Have No Name. And he's like, that's mine too. And so he turned it on, and he goes, I think this is what plays when you walk up to the gates of heaven. Like, do you know how, he said, you know how like the Mariners have like batting music, like when you walk up to take at bat.
That's right.
Like, I feel like this is what's going to play when we walk up to meet the Lord.
I hope it does. Maybe we all get our own favorite song. It'll be fun.
I know the other one I said to him that I wanted was Where I Belong by Switchfoot.
Oh, there you go. See, Switchfoot puts I went and saw them with Need to Breathe the other day. Man, they still put on a show. Unbelievable. They were great.
Will you play us out with just a chorus or one last thing, and it'll play us out into the credits here from your new record?
Ooh, from the new record. Yes, he does still heal the broken, run to the hurting, pour out his love. Yes, he does restore the hope of all those who wait for a miracle. Yes, he does. Ooh. Yes, he does. Ooh. Yeah. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much. I think one of my favorite things is when we interview someone and they have their instrument just right there. Thank you to Chris Cleveland from Stars Go Dim. Thank you to Brian Thiel from Curbword for setting this up. Of course, Scott Caro, our fabulous producer. And to you for listening to the Passion Meets Purpose podcast. We've got all the show notes for you. You can find everything you need at onpurposely.com. I'll see you in 2 weeks.